Welcome, friends. We're back talking Doctor Who, the first season, up to episode 3 if you're the rest of the world, 4 if you're Disney Plus here in the States. We are talking Boom, the episode by Stephen Moffat. And before we get into it, there will be spoilers ahead, so if those aren't for you, consider this your last warning. Let's crack on with the show. So I'm going to do this a little bit more haphazardly today. I guess I need to address all of the vitriol that's going on out there. Frankly, I don't really give a crap what anybody says on either side of the fence. At the end of the day, the creatives can say whatever they want, the fans can say whatever they want, but I'm viewing this as an episode of TV, and however I feel about it is how I feel about it. If I enjoy it, if I'm entertained, I really don't care what anyone else has to say. I am filtering this through my lens of personality, and I liked this episode. I didn't think it was perfect. I didn't think that everything worked excessively well, but I think for a start to finish type of episode here that was kind of hinging on one real aspect, it was mostly satisfactory, and it might be one of my most enjoyable Doctor Who episodes in a while. It felt like a mix between later Matt Smith and early Capaldi era, which, to be fair, isn't my favorite era of the show. That's when I feel like it started losing that magic that kind of lingered for a few seasons there. Boom, the whole crux of this was the Doctor stepped on a landmine on this alien planet, and he was unable to move without setting off the landmine. Contrary to, I guess, the popular opinion out there, or at least the opinion I was seeing a lot, probably started by Who Culture. I think they were the ones that theorized this was going to be more of a time loop episode where the Doctor kept blowing up over and over again, and I almost said Rose, and Ruby had to kind of go and try and save him over and over in different facets of timelines or something. This episode was chock full of themes: war, capitalism, greed, faith, man's inhumanity to man, love conquers all. None of that's particularly new to Doctor Who. What's interesting is the reaction to it. People are kind of feeling like, this came out of nowhere. I don't think so. I feel like this is something Doctor Who's tackled quite a bit in recent years, particularly, especially the Doctor not liking soldiers, the Doctor not necessarily having faith in a greater power out there, and if anybody in the universe of this show is warranted as not believing or not having faith through all the things that have happened over the course of, billions of years, if you take into account Capaldi, it is the Doctor. If you couple Capaldi's run where he hated soldiers and the Time Lord Victorious, they call it, where David Tennant was coming unhinged and kind of being like, I'm the only thing that matters. I'm the only thing that you can trust out there. It's not really that big of an extension from that. Towards the end of the episode, the Doctor explicitly states,
I thought you didn't like faith much, Doctor.
Just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't need it.
It's more like the people that are adding the bad components to it. The people in charge, the people running things, and by extension, the AI created by these people are the ones that actually cause all of this pain and all of this turmoil. It is the people doing this to themselves. Quite literally in this episode, there was no other force. I thought from the beginning it was going to be that there were two forces of humans. They were actually on the same side and they didn't know it. But no, actually it turns out there was no other side at all. This was all, I guess you could say, a combination of that episode from the original series of Star Trek, where they were having a war just through computer simulation and no one was actually in danger, but they were still killing each other based on an algorithm, coupled with that episode of Doctor Who from Tennant's run where Martha came back, the one where Jenny was created. Actually, they had these people that had only existed for a few days or a few weeks or whatever it was that were battling this war they didn't know anything about, and they weren't really adversarial. I think it was kind of a mix of those things with a whole bunch of other stuff thrown in. I liked the concept. I liked most of the execution. The things that I didn't necessarily care for were, well, the little girl, not necessarily saying it was her fault. A lot of the choices they gave her character were just grating on me a little bit. Maybe it was playing up on the whole nature of she just was in shock and couldn't believe what was actually going on, or maybe I just wasn't feeling the moment like I should be. The other thing that really kind of stood out to me is this AR wall technology that they're using here. Some of it definitely looked beautiful. Other shots very, very obviously they were standing in front of a wall or a screen with absolutely no depth going on whatsoever. There was a couple of shots where he was walking where it was clearly like he was just walking in front of a TV screen. A couple of the shots where they were standing looking into the distance. You could see they were just looking at a flat screen. Maybe I'm just noticing this more, and if it's used correctly, this could be amazing, but I'm afraid this is going to age terribly. Not that poor effects in Doctor Who have ever turned me off before, but this is the type of thing where I think it's better if they use it, especially now that it's in its infancy, more sparingly and do more creative shots as opposed to just throwing all of this money at the wall to see what sticks. I know they got this big budget increase by the whole Disney deal, but I think that less is more when it comes to these drastic effects unless you're capable of going so far above and beyond that it's just going to be a whole other level. Otherwise, you're going to look back on it and the cutting edge effects they're using now are going to look like the Megazord from the first Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. This unfinished, unrendered version of CGI. 20 years down the line, people are going to look at it like it's almost unwatchable. At least that's kind of the feeling I get. Now, granted, if you go back to so much classic sci-fi, it's literally just a painted wall. And there's nothing wrong with that, so maybe I'm just nitpicking here. I just wish they wouldn't throw so much money into these effects I personally don't think they need when they could be spending it elsewhere. I mean, they spent how much money in Space Babies to make a spaceship shaped like a butt to fart? At the end of the day, the storyline here gripped me. It was interesting enough to watch. We got some more insights into Ruby, although not necessarily as much as I thought we were going to get from her character here. We got to see Ncuti being this version of the Doctor for a first time, which I guess is a nice touch. But one thing that stood out to me is this took place in October, they said. Now, assuming we're basing that on the same linear timeline from, I guess, Ruby's perspective, the first episode, Space Babies, which I did not care for, so I have not gone back to watch it, took place right after the Christmas episode. Let's just say that took place December 25th. Then the next episode was stated it took place in June or July, roughly. Ruby wasn't entirely certain what month it was in her time frame. This episode takes place in October. Now, that wouldn't be necessarily a bad thing. However, it is stated in this episode, it is the first time Ruby has gone off-world and seen an alien planet. And they're almost a year into this excursion, this adventure, unless they're going home for months in between, and this is really only the third excursion. I don't know. It just feels a little odd, like there's no consistency between episodes, but since my grand theory is none of this is real anyway, I suppose that none of that really matters. It could all be part of the illusion that's going on right now. Time doesn't matter when the universe isn't real. And the other thing, the big grand reveal we get here is, well, actually two. One of which is we get Verada through her character potentially going to be the one we get to follow as a new companion later on. Not sure if that's going to hold. It could be a whole misdirect and we'll get a different version of her playing someone else. We have seen that before with a lot of people in Doctor Who, but specifically Clara. She played a few different characters before she was the real one. Obviously, Amy Pond, even the Doctor himself, Capaldi appeared before he was the Doctor. All sorts of things like that. So this might not be the same character we get as a companion. It would be intriguing if it is, especially since Ruby Sunday, and this character's name is Monday, and Monday comes directly after Sunday, so logically the progression there works out. If it's one of those wink-wink things that RTD likes to do, I could see that being the case, or it could be a misdirect. The second part is, this is the first time that the Doctor has seen Susan Twist, or a version of a character that she's playing in the show. I'm wondering if that will have any implications going forward, if he will start to recognize her as she plays different characters in other episodes, because the first two times he was distracted or looking away when her face was revealed to us, the audience. In conclusion, yes, this was definitely a darker type of episode for Doctor Who, kind of more similar to, I don't know, something you'd see on The Outer Limits or something, but I enjoyed it for what it was, and I personally thought it was a pretty good episode. faults in all, messaging and all. I don't think any of it was really out of step with what Doctor Who has presented in the past 15 years or so. Maybe some of it was a little bit more blatant, but at the end of the day, none of it was really treated as this is the definitive answer. The one thing that I guess might be a little much is the love conquers all ending of the episode, which, again, something Doctor Who has done to the umpteenth degree, so I won't fault that too much. It would have been nice to maybe slightly get a different sort of ending in there, but it really all boiled down to the human factor is the thing that really comes through. All of these things, war, capitalism, greed, the AI that's created, all of that falls to the human soul and the human capacity to love and all of that stuff, which I thought was a nice touch in there. And then it even kind of sort of restored the Doctor's faith in a certain way, and it led us to a good way to get out of the situation, even though some characters did die and were preserved as these weird AI construct versions of themselves. I wonder if that'll come up later, but whatever. How did you find this episode? What are you thinking of the season? Leave all your thoughts down below, like, share, subscribe to all those YouTube things, and until next time...
Blind isn't fatal.
You literally just said that to a dead blind guy.